Hey guys, it's Kevin in my review for Love Lies Bleeding. In this film, we center on the character of Lou. She is this gym manager that is pretty reclusive within her life, but she stumbles across this girl, Jackie, who is hoping to become a professional bodybuilder of her own. The two of them end up forming this relationship of sorts, but things start to get a bit more overcomplicated when Jackie ends up working for Lou's dad, who may or may not have ties to some very dangerous organizations, and that's all I'm really gonna say. So I was very excited for this film, not just because of the fact that, well, it's A24, and you guys know most of the time A24 has a movie coming out, I usually get pretty excited for it. Yes, they've had some misses here and there, but I feel like especially recently, they've just had such a consistent track record, and they're only getting better and better as they go on as a studio, as they're able to, you know, acquire more projects, as they're able to up their budget and things like that, as they start to become a lot more well-known to just the general masses and not just, you know, cinephiles and things like that. I think they've really just gone on to become, you know, one of the most successful studios out there that you can at least guarantee is going to make something that is different from what you normally get from, you know, Hollywood and things like that. They're at least going to make something really original and unique and singular, and that's exactly what I was hoping this film would be. The marketing completely won me over. I was really excited to see how it was going to be, but also the fact that Rose Glass was making another film after Saint Maud, which I absolutely adored, and I feel like is a very underseen film. I was really excited to see what her next follow-up was going to be, and for the most part, this film really delivered. I thought Love Lies Bleeding is a highly riveting and just very different kind of film than I really was expecting it to be, and it goes in so many interesting and audacious directions, but it's easily one of the best films I've seen of the year so far that I really just wish a lot more people were talking about, but we are just getting into right now. And similar to Rose Glass's last film, a lot of this film would not be nearly as good as it was if it wasn't for the performances here, but I think even more so in this movie. I mean, so much of this film is contingent upon our two lead characters, and if you don't have the right actors in those roles, they completely fall apart. But gratefully, this film, I mean, I think everyone is so well cast here, and I think everyone just gives such incredible performances. Let's talk about Kristen Stewart, who I have just been really blown away by lately. I think she's been giving great performance after great performance, and that continues to be the case here as Lou, who is kind of the perfect character for her. Like, I feel like this is like textbook Kristen Stewart, like what she is so good at. Lou is someone who is so incredibly reclusive and awkward, and she doesn't react to things in the way you normally would expect her to, but that's what makes her so incredibly intriguing. There's so much of herself that is so closed off. There's so little that she wants people to know about her, and so you want to know more, and Stewart just does such a great job of just kind of luring us in and giving such a enticing performance that just really captivates your attention the entire time, and I think she does a great job with that. But also seeing the way that Lou and the situations that she gets into as we start to learn more about her and the way her performance kind of changes throughout that. The range of emotions is very subtle. Lou is not someone who is very expressive with her emotions and things like that. She's very subtle. She's very internal with them, but I think Stewart just does such a great job at getting us to fully understand how she's feeling at all times, and really just getting us to, you know, care about her character that much more as a result. I just really love what she did in this movie. I thought she gave a great performance here, but by far the standout of this movie, and really the person that I think we're going to be talking about for a long time, is Katy O'Brien, who plays Jackie. And I mean, what an incredible breakthrough performance this really is. I don't know if this is actually the case. I literally just found this out from a YouTube video, but basically the Love Lies Bleeding Twitter was talking about how they still were casting the role of Jackie. Katy O'Brien replied to it and said that she was ready, and I don't know if that's how she ended up getting cast here, but my god, what a brilliant decision to cast her in this film, because she really just goes all out to sell you on this character. Jackie is someone who has these very ambitious dreams, and she's really willing to do whatever it takes to fully achieve them, but you start to see how that really starts to take a hit on her. The way she is at the beginning of this movie is very different from how she is towards the end of it. She starts off and she's I don't want to say naive, but she very much is someone who is this newcomer of sorts. She has this innocence about her, and throughout the film, she starts to become a lot more volatile, and you can see the effect that this ends up taking on her, and I thought she was just phenomenal in this film. There is one scene especially involving this audition, and oh my god, she just blew me away in that scene. O'Brien is an actor. I have seen her before. I think the only thing I saw her in prior to this was Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania, and I could not for the life of me tell you what role she played, because that was not a memorable performance in the slightest. I'm sure she was good in it, but like, it didn't really do anything to fully utilize her. But my god, I mean, I think after this film, we are going to be seeing so much more from her moving forward. She just gives such a incredible performance here, really just does such a great job at anchoring this film emotionally, and I think so much of this film rides on how much you care about Jackie, and she brings so much humanity, so many levels to this character that I think a lesser actor just wouldn't be able to pull off, and I was just really blown away by what she ended up doing here. And the chemistry between these two is just so incredibly natural. I really felt like I got a sense of how in love they were for each other, but also how much that love starts to take this sort of obsessive sort of route. It's a very interesting sort of chemistry, because so much of the film you're not entirely sure whether or not these two should be together, but yet they're so drawn to each other, and you yourself feel so drawn, but you're also questioning whether or not you should feel drawn to them, and I think that really speaks to how good their performances are here. Both of them were just fantastic in this movie, and really end up anchoring this film in an incredible way. As far as the rest of the cast goes, everyone else does a really good job. Dave Franco is very good for what he has here. Not a likable character at all. That's all I'm going to say. I can't really say too much about his character, but it's not really the type of role I've seen him do before, and I think he really pulled it off here. He really sold himself as this just very unlikable, very abusive character, and I thought he did a great job with that. Anna Baryshnikov is very good here. She frequently is the comedic relief in this film. She plays this girl who's borderline obsessed with Lou, and the directions they took her character I thought was pretty insane. I was not expecting them to go down the route they did, but I thought she did a really good job here. Jena Malone is very good here, but the other big standout in this movie has to be Ed Harris, who plays Lou's estranged father in this movie, and oh my god, I mean, this is just Ed Harris in top form. He is so good at playing these very ominous and very, like, creepy characters who you can't get a full read on. You don't know what he's fully capable of, but yet you are so incredibly intimidated by him. Every time he comes on the screen, the film is just so much more suspenseful as a result, and as we start to learn more about, you know, what he's really involved in and the lengths he's willing to go, his character becomes that much more intimidating as a result, and I thought he just did such a incredible job in this film, really just relishing in the downright psychopathic nature of this character, but again, playing it in a very subtle way. This is not a guy that, like, yells a lot and things like that, but there's always this darkness behind his eyes, and I just thought he just did such an incredible job in this. It really reminded me of, like, what he did, and obviously very different character, but like the same sort of menace he brought to like Westworld when he played William, but not as the Men in Black when he was just William. That's very similar to what he does here as Lou, and I thought he just did such a fantastic job here. All the cast is really great here. I would go as far as say this is even stronger ensemble than Glass's last film, but there's also, you know, a lot more characters here that have more to do, so naturally it's going to be the case, but I thought everyone just did a really great job here. Alright, but now let's get to the directing and the writing, which, like I said, really one of the big reasons I was so excited to watch this film was because of Rose Glass, and holy shit, I mean, you want to talk about a film that takes a director that I already was really impressed by and just boosts her up in like the upper echelon of like directors to watch out for. Look no further than what Rose Glass accomplishes here, because what she does in this film is just showcase how much more confident she is in her abilities. We've already seen what she can do when she has this, you know, sort of smaller film that she's working with, and not to say Saint Maud wasn't impressive, it was, but I think she challenges herself even more here, because while this film it still has a lot of very unsettling moments. This is much more of this romantic thriller, and I think she does a really good job in directing that here. Her style is apparent throughout every single frame of this film, and I think that she just heightened what could have been a very generic film as a result. I think she does a really good job of, giving this film such a sense of style, but also giving it such a voice of its own. I think she just does such a great job with this. The vibe of this movie is something I just fully got behind. 1 second in this film, you are really just eating up every second of the romance between these two, and then something really twisted happens, or you find out something, and you're so much more on edge as a result, and I think that really is due to Glass's directing here. She challenges herself way more as a director in this movie, because, her previous film was a horror film. This is very much not a horror film. It has those horrific moments, but I would not in any way call this a horror film. It is very much more of this, very sort of twisted romantic thriller, but I think that she just did such a great job here, and I think years from now, generally, I do believe this, I think Glass is going to be a name that could potentially become a household name in terms of directors. I think we're going to be hearing about her for a very long time. I cannot wait to see what her next project's going to be. Whatever it is, I'm going to be there day one, and this film really just solidifies why she is a director to watch out for. I mean, like I said, she just has such a confidence, but also such an understanding of what she's trying to accomplish through every single scene in this movie, and I think she just does such an incredible job here. I loved her directing in this film, but the screenplay also is something that just really ended up impressing me here, because one of the things that works so well about this movie is how this film really goes about telling this story. It wasn't in the way that I really was expecting them to. It starts off pretty abrupt, where immediately, we're in this gym, and we get this vibe, kind of just like the day-to-day lifestyle of Lou. She is someone who, like I said, is very closed off. She doesn't really do a good job. She doesn't really like talking to people. She doesn't really like striking up conversations. It's something that is very difficult for her. She doesn't really enjoy doing that, and when she meets Jackie, it just brings out this confidence in her. Jackie finally understands her. There's something that these two are, bonding over and things like that, and I found that to be such an interesting way to kind of tell this story. I mean, we're immediately thrust into their relationship pretty early on, and it's not one of those things where it's like this slow buildup of sorts. No, we're immediately just plucked right into it, and I thought it was just such a great way of doing that. But even smaller things, like the way this movie starts off, it starts off with this huge montage, with this whole montage of a bunch of sweaty people at the gym and things like that, and just giving you sort of an idea of what Lou is dealing with, and that perfectly places us into her mindset and who she really is as a character and how insignificant she feels she is to her world overall. I thought the film just did a really good job with that. But then, like I said, fully getting us to understand both of these characters, I thought that was something that I was just really impressed by here, because for a long time, we don't really know what is going on with Lou. Why is she so against Jackie working for her father? What is really going on with him? We know there's something up with that hair. It's just because of the way that he goes about things. He always has, like I said, this very sort of calming but sinister nature to him that we're just really unsettled by, but yet at the same time, we can't really put our finger on what is truly going on. And when we start to get more of a sense of what's going on, this film becomes that much more intense as a result. This film becomes that much more compelling as a result. But that's really only scratching the surface of what this film does do well, because like I said, the character of Jackie is really the one I found myself connecting to that much more. I think Lou as a character works really well. There's some things with her I'm not crazy about that I'll talk about a little bit later, but Jackie as a character I think is super well written here. I mean, from the beginning we understand, that she's really just willing to do whatever. She wants to be a bodybuilder. She'll do whatever it takes to be one. She doesn't really care how she needs to get there. She's just willing to do whatever she can to find her footing, but she also isn't fully aware of what she's really getting herself into, and as she becomes more accustomed to the lifestyle of bodybuilding, but also a large part of this movie that involves her sort of getting slowly addicted to steroids and the effect that that has on her. I thought that was just such a well done story in this film. The way they handled that addiction was really unlike anything I've seen before, because the more steroids she takes, the more confident she becomes, but also the less recognizable she really does become. By the end of this movie, Jackie is a completely different person by the way she was in the beginning of it, and I thought that they just did such a great job in getting us to fully understand her story, but also paralleling the, use of drugs to their relationship in this film. The relation between Lou and Jackie, like I said, it's one that you are allured by and you are really sucked into, but at the same time, there's always this question of whether or not these two should really be together. Are they actually helping each other, or are they slowly destroying each other? And I think this film dived into that really well here. You can see how much this affects Jackie, especially as a character, but then for Lou, how this is kind of getting her to have to, relive some moments from her past that she really didn't want to. She really thought that she had fully pushed those things away. I mean, her and her father, they don't have a relationship other than, she's just trying to do what she can to support her sister. That's all that matters to her. She wants to make sure that her sister's okay. She wants to make sure that, her sister is having the life that she really deserves. She's in this terrible abusive relationship and things like that, and she's really just trying to do what she can to provide for as much as she can. So then Jackie working for him, you can see that this really puts a strain onto Lou. I thought was just really well done in this film, and I really like the way they ended up telling that story. And the other thing I really like about this movie is that, in the beginning of the film, you kind of see a lot of differences in Lou and Jackie. Like I said, Lou is very introverted. She's very closed off. She doesn't really like to open up about herself, while Jackie is the complete opposite. She is very confident. She is very outspoken. She makes it no secret how she feels about things. But throughout the film, you really start to see, similarities with the two, the insecurities within Jackie when she starts to realize what she's gotten herself involved in, and then conversely with Lou, the confidence that she starts to feel through pursuing this relationship. And I thought that was just a really great way of getting us to fully understand these two characters. It's not quite as black and white as we see. There's a lot of certain traits and behaviors that they're kind of hiding from themselves, and it's very similar to when you enter a relationship. It starts off and you're not really looking at the negatives. You're not really looking at any of the flaws that are there. All you're seeing is the good stuff. All you're seeing is the stuff that you are enjoying because it's new and different, and you're not really you're not really used to it, but yet you kind of feel this feeling of just everything just seems kind of perfect. But then as the relationship goes on, things start to get more complicated and things start to build up, and you start to notice different things within each other. So I thought those two characters were just rock solid in this movie. The journeys that the two of them go on are so compelling in this film, but also you realize how separate they are. They both have these desires of sorts, and you're not really sure if those desires align. Jackie wants to be a bodybuilder, but she's also working for Lou's father, but she's also trying to pursue a relationship with Lou, and does that really go together? Conversely, you have Lou, who is trying to pursue a relation with Jackie, but she's also trying to, protect her sister and make sure her sister's okay. But also she's trying to, continue building this life for herself, but also not really doing so. She's very directionless as a character, aside from being this gym manager. And so you're wondering, like, do these two really belong together, or are they actively hurting each other? And I thought that was something this film explored in a very authentic manner. It doesn't come across in a way that is, like, campy or anything like that. And with that being said, I mean, even though this film, like I said, it is different from her previous film, Glass still does a really good job of applying what worked in Saint Maud, of taking what worked in Saint Maud and applying that to this film. A lot of the surreal moments that we got in Saint Maud that really just took us off guard, we do get moments like that here, and they're some of the best of the entire movie. There's one in particular in the third act that is absolutely insane and is definitely not going to work for everybody, but I really just bought into what she was trying to do, what she was really trying to say in that moment. I really appreciate the big swings this film ended up taking, the unconventional, directions they end up going in. I think it made the film that much more special and that much more impressive that they were able to pull off the things that they were here. But I also gotta credit Weronika Tofilska, who I think gives the film that authentic sort of nature that it really does have, and I think that, she also did a really good job in applying, in applying her own style to this movie. I thought that the two of them worked really well together in terms of the screenplay, and I was really impressed by, what they both end up doing here. So overall, I mean, I just found myself just really compelled by what was going on. Like I said, you like these two characters, and you like their romance, but as the film goes on, things get more and more complicated, and all these different problems keep occurring, and they get more and more severe as the film go on. You really just start to question whether or not these two really should be together, and I really like the way the film explored all of that. The cinematography in this also is absolutely stunning. I mean, the way they pluck you, I forgot to say, the film does take place in the late 1980s, and I don't think this is one of those things where it just feels kind of random. It makes sense for this film to take place there, especially with like the bodybuilding angle and things like that. There's a lot of topics they dive into regarding that, with like identity and sexism and things like that. They're not as touched upon as some of the other things in this movie, but I think they do dive into those things really well here. And I thought that they really just captured, that whole time period very well. I really enjoyed what they did with that. But again, also the surreal elements are really when the cinematography is on display. The film has such an interesting sort of style to it, specifically when it comes to the flashbacks. So we get a lot of flashbacks in this movie of Lou's past, and they're always presented in this like red sort of hue, and it's really interesting the way they did that. It really feels like these, sort of dangerous memory. It really heightens the idea of these are these like very dangerous and triggering memories that Lou doesn't want to have to think about, but because of her current situation, she has to relive all of that. And the film really places us into that setting. It makes it that much more it makes it that much more effective. It makes it that much more almost nightmarish in the way that they decide to go about that. And I thought that the cinematography was just really well done here. There's also this really cool way they visualize steroids in this film that I really hadn't seen before, and I can't really get into it too much, but let's just say more that Jackie ends up, injecting these steroids, the more she sort of transforms, and I thought it was really interesting what the film was trying to get at. I thought they went in a very interesting direction, and it really heightened the storytelling in that way. It was a really interesting way of sort of visualizing the transformation that Jackie ends up undergoing in this movie. I thought they just did such a fantastic job with that, and it's honestly one of the most impressive things about this film. Clint Mansell's score also was fantastic here. I really enjoyed the score he brought. It brought such a propulsive energy to this movie that I thought just worked really well. I've always enjoyed his scores a lot, and I think this is yet another fantastic score from him. And the editing for this movie, the movie is only like an hour, 40-ish minutes, and I think it's extremely well paced. I mean, I was fully locked into this film from start to finish. There was never a point where I found myself, checking out of what was going on or not into what was happening. I think they really did a good job of utilizing the story to its fullest potential. Though the ending this movie leaves on is fantastic, and it ended in a way I really wasn't expecting it to. You kind of think the film's going to go down this predictable path, but they ended in this very sort of ambiguous manner, typical of A24 to do that. But I mean, I thought it worked really well for this film. It really kind of gives you a new sort of idea of what the movie's really trying to go for. It gets you to feel different ways about some things than you did earlier on in the film, and I thought that was something that was just really well handled in this film. That being said, I don't think this film is perfect. There are a couple things that do bring it down for me. One of them being, as much as I did enjoy Anna Baryshnikov's character, she feels a little one-note compared to some of the other characters in this movie. I just felt like we didn't really get enough with her. She really is just this girl that is like borderline obsessed with Lou, is doing whatever she can to, have her to herself, and by the end of the movie, she feels more like a plot device than anything. She doesn't feel like this fully well-realized character that really ends up, that really ends up being developed into something more. She feels more just like somebody that is there to be this obstacle of sorts for, our two leads, and just, there's not really a ton more that goes on with her. There's some crucial stuff that happens with her, you know, later on in the film, but it never really feels like her character was as developed as I really want her to be. Maybe if they gave us some more scenes of her and Lou and things like that. But I don't know, her character I think just needed a little bit more work overall. But the larger issue for me really does concern Lou as a character. I already talked about how I thought the film does do a good job of getting you to understand her reaction and getting you to understand why she is so affected by what's going on and why she is so scared of what Jackie is getting herself involved in. But whenever the film has these flashbacks of sorts, they just feel a little bit too brief. We do get some understanding of what Lou underwent and, you know, sort of the trauma that this has on her, but it never feels like we get a full exploration of what really happened, you know, concerning her family life, what really got her to this point, you know, what really ended up going down with her father, what is the thing that made the two of them completely just, like, grow apart. It just felt like we were kind of kept at a distance with that, and I wish the film fleshed those sequences out a bit more. So it wasn't a thing where I felt like we didn't get enough. I just kind of felt like the way that Lou was so closed off in the beginning of the movie, I felt like I was being closed off throughout the film. I felt like I wasn't getting enough of an idea of what has Lou really been through. You know, we know obviously what her dad is involved in. We get an idea of that throughout the movie. But I just wanted to see more of, like, what affected this, you know, what really ended up happening to her. What were the things that she really had to do? The film gives you a brief explanation of that, but there are just some things I wish they had explored a bit more. And I think if they had done that, it would have made the film that much more effective overall. But overall, it really doesn't take away from just how effective of a film Love Lies Bleeding really is. It's incredibly stylish. There's fantastic directing from Rose Glass, who I think really is going to cement herself as a household name. Not this film, but I think in a few films from now, we're really going to see her, you know, push further into, like I said, that upper sort of tier as, you know, directors that are really going to become something big. She's absolutely making a name for herself with these two movies, and I cannot wait to see what she's going to do next. It is two fantastic performances from Kristen Stewart, and especially Katy O'Brien, who I need to see in a lot more stuff after this. I mean, she gives such a just incredible star-making performance that I think is really just going to hopefully push her into a very long and illustrious career. Ed Harris also giving a really strong supporting performance here. Some really strong cinematography, a great score from Clint Mansell. Love Lies Bleeding is just the kind of movie that I think a lot of people are just really going to get behind. It goes in some very unconventional directions that you're not expecting, but I think makes the film that much more special because of it. It really is trying to tell a very different kind of story than we've seen. And even though I saw this film like over 2 months ago, it really hasn't left my head. Like, a lot of the ideas and what it's going for are still very much things that I have been thinking about. The ending, like I said as well, it poses a lot of interesting questions that I just really found myself intrigued by. So overall, there's a lot to really love about this film. And I think, again, in a year where we really just have had a lot of kind of just drivel in terms of blockbusters, I mean, this is just a really refreshing film that is really just going to show you how good a film can be when you have the right talent involved and you have you know, such a strong sense of voice and confidence. I think Love Lies Bleeding is a perfect example of that. It is most definitely one of the best films I've seen so far this year, and I'm definitely going to give Love Lies Bleeding an A-. But overall, guys, to my review of Love Lies Bleeding. Let me know what you guys saw this movie overall, left your thoughts on it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.